Men and women all over the globe are joining now for the best videos on the internet.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
And I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Click the subscribe button now to become a member of the Action Pack. Would you like to know more?
Ciao a tutti! Benvenuti! Hello everyone and welcome. I have a question for you today. Do you like RPGs, especially the classic ones played on tabletop? How about transferring that over to computers in the form of a CRPG? Okay. I am Mike, and with me today is
Giacomo Montagnoli, creative director of Glasshouse, none less the co-founder of Flat 28 Game Dev Collective.
And this is Mike's After Action Reviews, and this is the After Action interview for Glasshouse.
Hi, it's Travis with Oscar Mike Radio. Oscar Mike Radio is a military and veterans podcast and show about those who serve our country and those who have served and are doing amazing things.
You know what? Let's take more. And then they had that fantastic
managing those logistics and getting things where they need to be on time.
I mean, come on.
Want to learn more? Want to follow the show? Go to OscarMikeRadio.com or the link below. We're Oscar Mike, and we're mission in flight. Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we are going to start with the game's production. But before we get into that, obviously, I started the intro speaking Italian, and I'm going to mess up saying your name. Gian. Say it one more time.
Giacomo Montagnoli.
Okay, so I'm going to say
Jack.
Okay, Jack. I can say Giacomo.
Mm-hmm. My surname, if it's easier for you, you can call me Monta, because it's the diminutive of Montagnoli, so shorter version, Monta, like Tony Montana. For me, it's Monta. They call me Monta. That's all.
Okay, Monta. Okay, so Monta here is from Milano, Italy, and which is really great because actually my wife right now is on a phone call with her family.
See.
And they're from Veneto, Italy, and so I go to Italy. I go to Italy every year. Maybe when I go to Italy, we can see each other, and I'll bring you a shirt. I'll bring you one of my Mike's After Action Reviews shirts. So so that's really cool for me. So we have a very special guest. I'm very excited about today. I've done a few interviews in the past, but not very many, and it's always great to actually. Like, this is a game dev. I love games, and it's a genre that I really like. So, so let's get into the game's production here. So for just right off the bat, this is a CRPG, which is basically for people who don't understand what that means in the video game industry. A CRPG is when you take like old classic tabletop game, the tabletop game formula, and you roll it into a package to be put on computer, kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, where you have like the dice rules and there's stat checks and all that stuff, but it's being done by a computer rather than like a dungeon master if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's accurate, right, Monta? Like,
Yeah, more or less it's accurate, but I think we can delve into it later.
Sure.
Yeah, it like classic RPGs narrative driven. They are especially focused on narrative. They have an isometric camera. Games like Planescape Torment, Tyrant, on Disco Elysium.
Okay, yeah. So I have played. I played Baldur's Gate 3, and I've actually played old school Dungeons and Dragons, like on the tabletop, and so I'm familiar with. And I've played a couple other games. I played some other Dungeons and Dragons games. I'm familiar with this type of thing, and yeah, and like I said, I really like this genre because I just the tabletop rules, especially with Dungeons and Dragons, always appealed to me. So you got, and like you said, we'll get into that just a little bit later. But so just so we understand, you have no release date intended right now?
Nope, not yet, because the game is not funded yet. We don't have a publisher. That means that actually we are working on Glasshouse since 2 years, more or less May 2022. And since then, we are working on our spare time. We recently delivered a concept demo, and that means that we just left pre-production. So now we're entering production, and we'll see what happens next.
Okay. Okay, so when you say, so it's like on Steam, it says no release date right now. Are you do you have an expectant time at all? Like, a year from now, 2 years, anything, any amount of clarification on that at all?
I could say it because we are working on with ourselves, no publisher and everything. But I will not say it because I don't want to make promises that I can't afford. When you're working with a collective, you can't expect people to work a certain amount of hours. You're working during your spare time, and if it's not a job, there's life in the middle of it. So everything could change. I have Anita, but who knows? We'll see.
You said you have a what now?
And Anita, unexpected date.
We
have a. I could say a year. I can say to you that it will not be in 3 years. It will be less than 3 years. Let's say. Let's just say that.
Okay, excellent. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, and that's fair. Like, I'll tell you, just kind of like I said, this is going to be part interview, part discussion. Like, I'll tell you, I have the YouTube channel, and there are people that help me sometimes, but actually I do almost 90% of the work. So, like, being able to say to people, it'll be done at this day, I can definitely see what you mean when you say, like, I don't want to make a promise. Okay, so developer Flat28, you said you don't have a publisher. Can I ask you, I'm a huge fan of the video game industry, and I look into the video game industry for my YouTube channel and stuff. But actually, I'm not so much familiar with this. If you develop the game, what is the cost? Like, what is the in a situation like yours where you're a smaller developer? What you're saying you need a publisher? Like, what is the purpose of the publisher? What does the publisher do to you to bring this game out? Like, after you've created the game, like, you wouldn't just you're saying you wouldn't just put it on Steam and see,
No, because 99% of the case, it will be a bloodbath. If the publisher is useful for two main things. Mainly, it's about funding. So the publisher comes in during pre-production and gives you a budget, and then you need to fulfill their expectation in terms of milestone. Okay, so usually if you make an agreement with a publisher, they don't just give you like 1 million of euros or dollars of budget right in your hand. You need to follow their milestone. Like in 6 months, we want this kind of build. In 1 year, we want to be in pre-alpha. In 1 year and a half, we want to be in alpha, and they are going to pay you once you reached that milestone.
Okay.
So of course, unless you are not rich, and that's not our case, you need a publisher in order to fund the project. If you decide, like we are doing right now, to go and develop in our spare time, you can do another thing. You can complete the game and then try to sell it to a publisher. If you do that, the publisher will take care of the second most important thing, the marketing, or maybe it's even the most important thing of all, because if a game it's good, it doesn't mean that it will sell good, but if there's a good marketing, the game will sell good, even if it's not good. And we saw this multiple times. The thing is, us as a human beings, of course, we can try, but we can do simply the job of a publisher, because that means you need to take care of marketing. So you need to have all of the mails of the journalists, of the YouTubers. You need to be able to have a budget to make commercials, paid videos, and things like that. So if you want to reach a bigger audience, you need a publisher. Or you can have luck, or you can be good, but most of the time it's about luck. You can go viral. And if you go viral, maybe it will start to spread around Twitter, X, whatever you want to call, TikTok, and things like that. And then you will start to earn a wish list on top of other wish lists. And actually, you can release a game by yourself, and it will be going good. But most of the time, doesn't happen. I mean, recently, Steam announced that only last year, 17,000 games got released only on Steam. 17,000 games, and that's a lot. That means that you need to compete with a lot of people with a huge range of variety of products, and all of them can be good, bad, and you're just one tiny droplets in the open sea of the market, and that can be hard if you are by yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. So, then what we got to do is we got to get this video. It's got to go. Hey, if you're watching this, make sure to like, share, comment, and we're gonna get this game viral, so that way we can make a gajillion dollars for Glasshouse here. So so tell us about, so you and I were talking just a little bit before we started recording here, but tell us about yourself and your team and how that works. You said you work with a collective. Explain to us exactly what that means.
Oh, collective means nothing and everything all at once, basically, because legally a collective it's nothing. It's not registered anywhere as a company or something like that. It's just a bunch of people working on certain things, and that's it. They love each other. They of course they have some ideas. They just a philosophy about something in particular that's in common. When you are in a collective, I am not going to say that we are part of it's like we are in a family, because that's what company usually says. It's a big family. No, collective, it's not a family. It's just a bunch of people that love working together, that love to create things, and they are represented by a flag, which is what the collective says. Like for us, it's called Flat 28 because when we started working on Glasshouse, we started working on the central hub of the game, which is the apartment 28. And all of the development, all of these 2 years of development gone through smart working. So we don't have an official study, okay, but an office. But for us, working on this virtual space, the apartment 28, that one was the thing that makes us work together, working on a apartment. And that's why for us, Flat 28 means the virtual space, the virtual office in which all of these beautiful talents from the CGI, film, and video game industry collides to make this peculiar game.
Yeah. So can I ask you how many people do you have on your team?
The core team is made by 10 people, but if we consider all of the other development cycles like sound design, the composer, the animator, and things like that, I think we are more or less 15, 16 people from all around the world. Of course, the administration is based in Italy. I would say that we are 60. Flat 28 is composed by 60% Italians and 40% from people coming from Colombia, Canada, Boston, Bulgaria, and even London and Austria. So
Okay.
we have a bunch of people.
Well, where did you guys all? How did you get that to work? How did you meet all these people?
That's tough. Like for example, I don't come from the video game industry. I come from the filmmaking industry. Myself, I'm mainly a director and a screenwriter for commercial documentaries. By the way, I'm a director of even documentary based on video games. So.
Oh, okay.
So I, before actually getting into this adventure, I actually started to study video games when I was a journalist and while making videos. So I managed to understand the most important thing about the human resources, the development of a good work environment in video games by framing in my camera other people.
Okay.
I'm an outsider. I'm an outsider. Just that. But my my greatest luck was to. I was playing Ant Showdown on PlayStation Network.
Yeah.
With one of my old times friend, and at some point I discovered that this guy is a programmer, and he was never satisfied with nowadays games. So one day I told him, look, you know how to program, I know how to write a story, let's make a game together. And the first 3 months we were just 3 people, a programmer, a designer, and a 3D modeler. And after a while, the first concept artist arrived. So I knew I wanted to make a CRPG because, you know, if you're making an action game as a first game, it can be difficult, you know, but we decided to go the CRPG route because simply by a programming standpoint, it's easier. Plus, I love CRPGs. And we love CRPGs, of course. So while programmer was making the first prototype with dialogues, I was writing the first pages of the character development. I was writing the GDD, the game development, the game design document, in order to create the pillars of the actual game. So the rules, the structure, and when we got the first prototype, and my words became actual concept arts. We started to go around Discord communities, Reddits, making posts about our vision of the game, and from 4 people in 2 years, we became 16, 17.
Okay, that's actually pretty unique. I appreciate the fact that you guys are doing the CRPG for the reason of it being a little easier, because oftentimes you see these indie games who are the big one that I see a lot is people want to make an MMO. And so they start, the first game I'm ever going to make is an MMO, and MMOs are so big, and so they're supposed to be so big, and they're supposed to have all these features. And what ends up happening is these guys make basically just a terrible game. Yeah. So that's actually really interesting to hear about. People started coming on because of their interest in the game. So I think that bodes well for the final product, because if people are doing it because they find it interesting, then usually the gamers will find it interesting. So do you have anybody on your team that has worked on anything where you could go like, we have a guy who worked on something we might know of, or a movie or a game or something?
No, but, we have like our animators comes from a company called Rainbow CGI, which is the company that created the Wings, the cartoon, the Wings. They even made a Netflix. Yeah, so it's the Wings are an Italian thing.
Okay, I'm going to tell you.
It's called the Rainbow CGI. So we have people that actually worked with Wings, with other Disney cartoon and such, and then we got developers who worked for VR games such as Mind Labyrinth. We're talking about VR experience with a compelling art style, and yeah. That's it. Of course, a lot of people inside Flat 28 Collective work on B2B, so it's not they work on project not directly for customers, which is B2C, but it's for working for other company in order to go to the public market. So Glasshouse, it's actually our first game, and because of that, of course, we did a lot of mistake. Like when you were saying, I see a lot of people when trying to do their first game, they do an MMO, and as you can see, it never comes out, because the huge problem is that people want to make the game they would play, but they should do the game that they can actually do. And
that's a good point.
Yeah. And now, when I said the reason why we did a CRPG instead of, I don't know, a third person shooter like Last of Us, it's because I said because it's easier, but in reality it's not. It's fucking hard. We've been naive. Glasshouse at the beginning was an overscoped project, and during these 2 years, it's got cut a lot. And it was at the beginning it was like this, and then it was slowly becoming the perfect form, the perfect shape, a more focused experience that doesn't want to compete with AAA, AA. It wants to be a game that we can afford to make with a huge quality. And if we want to reach high standards, we need to do a shorter game, basically.
Right.
At the beginning,
how long?
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, because you're about to say it. How long is the game then?
We're aiming to create a game of the main campaign of the game should be 8 hours, more or less, 7,
Okay.
8 hours. We want to sell a game that is as much the price of a ticket, of a movie ticket, and then you go in, and it's longer than an actual movie.
Okay, I get what you're saying. No, I think that that's a great thing too, because I think that a lot of games, even in the AAA space where you're paying $70, or some people pay for a deluxe edition, it's like $100 or whatever, it'll be good, but then it'll be good for too long, and then you're like, man, this thing, it's I kind of want to know how this thing ends and just move on with my life, because it overstays its welcome and it gets a little bit boring. Yeah, so then, okay, so my last question, okay, I have 2 more questions for this production here. So first thing is, where did the idea to not just make a game, but like make this game? Okay, because this all happens in flat 28 in the game's world, and it's like post-apocalyptic. Where did the idea for all of that come from?
Well, it comes from a lot of things. We can talk about movies, literature, or actual video games. Like the main inspiration, the main video game inspiration were surely Pathologic, This War of Mine, and Disco Elysium. While if we want to take a look at the movies reference, surely we have movies like The Sacrifice of Tarkovsky, or the most recent Carnage by Roman Polanski. Like Carnage of Roman Polanski, it's really cool because everything happens inside a flat, and we love to see this kind of social class clashes inside a single room, because it's like when you're arguing with someone, okay, and you're stuck in a room, you can't just leave the fight. You need to stay inside that room and keep fighting to see who's stronger. So
Right.
The idea was to create a kind of environment in which there's always fight, oratory, and physical, but you can't escape from it because you are in lockdown. So that's the high concept of Glasshouse. And then, of course, if we want to take a look to literature references, sure thing, we have Inherent Vice by Thomas Pynchon. We have even High Rise from Ballard. High Rise, it's this you have this building in which there's a fight between the floors of the building. It's like a civil war between the flats of the building.
Is that a series? Or is that a movie?
No, it's a book. It's a book. High
Okay,
Rise.
yeah, sorry.
High Rise from Ballard. Or if we want to take a look to more political stuff, it was a great reference for me was to read the Manifesto of Ocalan, the manifesto made in Kurdistan, which says basically that state nation are not a system that works anymore, and we should aim more to a municipal shape of the society in which more people, there's not a representative of power, one for all of the people, but there are more for more people. So it's like cities working with other cities in order to create a better environment. And that one, for example, was the main idea behind the manifesto in game of Glasshouse that it's called the Feudocratic Manifest. It's feudal democracy. So in Glasshouse, there are no more nations, no more globalization. It's only about fiefdoms. Is it good? We will see in Glasshouse, because of course Glasshouse doesn't want to give you answers. It wants to help you to have questions. Usually, questions are better than answers, by my perspective.
I really appreciate that, and I want to talk to you about some of this stuff when you say questions, because I used to be a nurse, and I was in the Army, I was in the infantry, I was airborne, I did all that, and then I switched to nursing while I was still in the Army, and then I got out of the Army. And something that they said, they always talk to us about, oh, you meet all these different people and how you have to deal with patients when I was a nurse. And one thing that I always said was, when you meet someone, you need to look at them and have a question in your mind and not an answer, like not an assumption of what it is, but it's okay to ask the question. Okay. I think that video games and movies a lot today are trying to tell you the answer to the question instead of asking the question. Like, ask the question, let players answer it for themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying. But that doesn't mean that by asking a questions you are not taking a part, because for my perspective, everything is political. Even gameplay can be political, and politic can be gameplay, and that's one of the main pillars of Glasshouse. But by my perspective, when you decide to make a question, you are ready to part, because you are already expecting an answer. Okay, so yeah, making question, it's really important, because it means that you are thinking about a specific thing. I could say that I know more a person by the question he made than the answers, because the questions are real, the answers can be fake.
Right. No, I understand. Okay. All right. So actually, my next question was going to be like, do you have video games or movies or other media that inspired you during your development process? But you kind of answered that. So don't have to worry about that. Just a quick note. So for everybody who's watching this, so this is your guys' first game as a collective, you and your team of about 16 people. So I'm going to tell you, I've looked at it, and so just so you know, Monte here, all he sees is the black box and a black box. Viewers are going to be seeing gameplay over here and then some images. And I've watched this, and this looks actually really good. I really actually like the way that the game looks. And when it's not like a AAA game, but sometimes if you look at if you're in the business like I look at game reviews, you see people who have no idea what they're doing and it looks really bad. But what I actually thought of was Trudegrad. Have you played that game?
What? Sorry?
It's called Trudegrad or Atom RPG. It's called Atom RPG, and then they have the expansion Atom RPG Trudegrad.
Yeah. I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm playing through that right now, and then I saw your game because it said related, and that's what I ended up messaging you. So and I was like, because I'm always on the lookout for like small developers and to be able to bring on my channel to do stuff like this. So it's good for me. It's good for you guys. And that's what I thought of though, was Atom RPG. So yeah.
My name is Stephen Russell. My co-writer, Joseph Miles Pittman, and I would like you to imagine a graphic narrative that disrupts the superhero genre's conventional boundaries. Tales of Nihilism unfolds a thought-provoking anthology with diverse story formats, from succinct comic strips to multi-saga issues. But at its core, the Ballad of Philip Kirshner explores existential challenges of an ordinary man in a world inundated with superheroes. The anthology challenges prevailing hero worship narratives, diving deep into societal introspection. We invite readers to confront uncomfortable truths about our culture's obsession with saviors and question the prevailing societal structures. The series is not just a comic, but an invitation to contemplate, challenging readers to reassess their perspectives on heroism and societal norms. It's an opportunity to offer audiences a fresh, introspective take on the superhero universe, sparking conversations, reflections on the human condition. You can find the series digitally on Global Comics, or follow the links below to get your own physical issue.
Let's get into the story here then. So on the Steam description says this: a lockdown CRPG set on the brink of a world war. Solve the political conspiracy, build makeshift equipment, and survive your flatmates. Now, we've already talked about what a CRPG is, typically referring to tabletop games that are transferred to the computer using some of those types of systems. And we'll get into it because I know you said like that there's some political overtones, and I would really like to talk about that because I think that you guys are going to have a good approach to it compared to a lot of developers we see today. But kind of starting off, can I just ask you, what is the setting of the game? Because I immediately when I started to see things, I thought Russia, but also Adam RPG is set in Russia, so I might be a little bit biased because I'm playing that game right now. But what is the setting of the game?
Well, Glasshouse, it's based on our real world, but it's not set in our world. And it's not even an alternate reality, okay? It's not the steampunk version of our planet Earth. It's a whole different world, and it's the Glasshouse itself. It's based on let's say a different version of London, okay? And the English society, as you can see by the images, the architecture and the aesthetic is inspired by the Victorian ages, and so what we did is more or less what Fallout did by taking the aesthetic of 1920s and translated to our days. Well, we did more or less the same thing. We took the aesthetic of 1800, but Glasshouse it's Glasshouse it's set during 2028. The year it's 2028. And
2008.
Yeah, 2028. And but it seems like steampunk, because what happened in the world of Glasshouse is that they are in a post-capitalism situation. Like at a certain moment, the society of the world of Glasshouse went through a technology immobilism. So when they started to destroy the capitalist and state system, and they get rid of globalization, what happened in the world of Glasshouse is that there are no more nations, there are no more states, there are only fiefs and fiefdoms. So that means that without globalization, all of the cities are working for themselves, and now all of the map of the world it's made by birders. People are not collaborating anymore. Everyone are working for their fiefdom, and that's all.
Okay. See, that's what I'm saying. It's actually is a really interesting concept. It makes me think of, again, like I said Adam RPG already, but just like the Fallout games where you'll have the different factions, you know, in whatever Fallout game you're playing, you have like the different factions and they're all like secluded, and maybe they're not at war with each other, but they don't, like you're saying, they don't collaborate, they don't share information or anything like that. So then let me ask you this. So obviously with a game like this, you're going to have a big part of the game is going to be the characters and the writing of the characters and dialogue. Are there any interesting characters in the game that you just want to tell us about right off the bat to give us like maybe somebody you want to highlight and say like, oh, here's this interesting character you can interact with?
Well, first of all, the player will act as Will Meyer. Will Meyer is the main protagonist of the game, and basically it's an ambassador of peace between his two flatmates, Egbert and Wojciech. Egbert, it's the classic nationalist guy. It's the
Okay.
conservative guy, while Wojciech is a yellow. He's a yellow. In Glasshouse, people are differentiated by colors. Green, if you are a citizen of right and you can vote. Orange, if you are like a political refugee. You can vote, but you are protected by the feudal council. And then you have yellows, which are basically extra-communitary. Okay, so they are foreigners coming from other fiefdoms, but they can't vote. And then you have red citizen, which is basically enemies of the fiefdom. They are criminals and they are wanted. So Wojciech, it's a yellow. And of course, he hates the nationalist guy. So you will find yourself in the middle of a fight, of a never-ending fight between your two flatmates. And one of the things that I love most about Glasshouse is that we wanted to make an RPG in which your flatmates are your party.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there is like a party system where you're going to have a companion and things like that?
Yeah, in a certain part of the game, you can decide if you want to stay with one roommate instead of another one, because things will happen, and at some point you will need to decide which parts to take, and that means that you can also go by yourself. Because if you want to do, if you want to be for real an ambassador of peace, maybe you need to stay neutral in the middle. But that doesn't mean that it's the right choice.
Right.
Because not taking a choice, it's still a choice.
Right. So then my question for that, actually, that kind of leads into my next question. So do your choices affect the story of the and the world around you? Okay, and then like what kind of consequences is the player going to face? Are there multiple endings? And then actually my big kind of a third question part of this, and if I'm giving you too much, just let me know. But my third kind of part of this would just be: is there a clear, this is the good and this is the bad, or is it like, look, play the game?
Okay, so of course the moral choices are one of the toughest topic that invest a writer. Okay, of course, I really think that the main objective of a writer is to manage to create different paths without telling to the player which is the right one. Like, for example, Mass Effect, you have the red choices, and red is bad, and the blue choices, which is good. For me, it doesn't work. Mass Effect is great. It's fantastic. But that part doesn't work. In Glasshouse, and how it seems like I'm telling, yeah, we are better. Our choices, our moral choices in Glasshouse are better than Mass Effect, but no, I will not make promise. Of course, our main objective is to create a huge range of grayscale dialogue lines that you can take, especially because of the approach of giving to the player the right questions and not the right answer. That approach allowed us to create a plethora of butterfly effect situation in which something is good only if you think that it's good. Not because the game is telling you that you are doing a bad or good thing. You will face the consequences at some point. And it doesn't mean that A equals to B 10 minutes later. Because a lot of the questions that you will do in Glasshouse, like in real life, you will see the consequences far after, when you can't just save scum, reload a save and then do another question. It's an approach not that much different by Life is Strange, if I can say that. And of course, there will be multiple endings, and it's not a spoiler to say that everyone can die and everyone can live, or most of them. Most of the NPCs and the character of Glasshouse can die, and most of the characters and the NPCs of Glasshouse can live. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Including your protagonist.
So I'll say that, like, Fallout, and this is kind of, again, leading into my next question. Actually, this is going really well because the way you answer the questions have just... He doesn't have my questions for everybody watching this, but they've coincidentally kind of like led into the next question. So Fallout, really great game, big developer. You had Obsidian, and then they went to Bethesda. As the game series has gone on, the writing, once we reached Fallout 4, the writing started to kind of be like what you're saying. There was a good and there was a bad, and that was it. And the game kind of held your hand in a way that some people were frustrated with. My next question: will players be able to, quote unquote, get everything in one playthrough? So I was gonna. Okay. Because I was going to say, because in Fallout, it tends to be, like, once you reached Fallout 4, the way that the games were being made tended to be, like, if you had a character who was really good at, had a high strength, they could bully people into giving them what they want. But if you had a character that had high intelligence, they could, use some dialogue option to get what they want. So this is not going to be that type of thing where every playthrough can get everything, but they just have to do it a different way.
No, because we should talk about the actual RPG system of Glasshouse. In Glasshouse, we don't have strength, dexterity, intelligence. We have what we call the political compass. So in Glasshouse, you have 5 ideologies: colonialism, holisticism, feudocratism, confeudocratism, and anarchy. So you decide to align with one or more of these ideologies. And what does it change, actually? It changed that you can actually do it. I like to, when I talk about the political compass, it's like you decide what kind of tongue you have. Like, if you have a colonialist tongue, that means you can say colonialist things. So it's more an RPG system that change the way you actually speak to people. And that's really cool, because I think one of the main problems of RPGs is that with dices, and we do not have dices, is that you can say things that your character will never say. But for us, if you invest on certain ideologies, your character will naturally follows your ideology of the player and its ideologies. So that means that the thing that you will say, it's supposed that you can't say that things, but for the things that you can say, it's just because you can't reach even to think about those kind of answers, because your brain is not built like that. Simply, you can't say a colonialist thing if you are an anarchist. You can say an holisticist thing if you are a confederatist. And that's the whole point of Glasshouse. In Glasshouse, you invest your point of views, so your points, into 5 ideologies, and you create your political build. With that build, you can interact with NPCs in different ways. But the cool thing of this system is that these skill checks that we call the political skill checks doesn't mean that if you pass it, it's a success. Like in games like Disco Elysium or the recent Starfield, if you pass a political skill check, there's always a positive outcome. In Glasshouse, it's not like that, because it's not only you that you are based upon the political compass, but even the other character, the other NPCs have a political compass. So that means that if I'm talking with you, I'm an holisticist and you are a colonialist, I need to understand by your dialogues that you are a colonialist. So if I want to have success with you, I try to need to speak your language, your ideology. Otherwise, if I will use my ideology, it will not work. It's simply that. So certain times you can directly avoid all the political thing. In fact, in Glasshouse, you can even decide to not belong to any political patterns. You can even not level up, and you can just remain a neutral person that doesn't speak about politics. Is it a good thing for the story? I don't know. I mean, I know it. We will see. But that's the whole point of it. It's this beautiful ray scale. It's applied to the dialogue, starting from the political compass, the RPG bones of the games.
Yeah, so that sounds like you're gonna have a lot of replayability because you can always go back through and do it differently. That also creates a really great system of. That's my son. I'm not gonna cut that out. He's fine. That sounds like yeah. So like you're gonna have a lot of replayability, and then it's like you were saying, it's a system of creating as many dialogue options as possible. And I think that that's going to be something that's really appealing. Do you have, kind of switching gears, I just want to, so we're getting into some stuff that I want to talk about. So, into some other questions. So I want to kind of get to those questions. For one thing, you're saying that the political compass is it like the skill tree is what you're saying?
Yes. The skill tree, the political compass is the skill tree. When you complete quest, you earn POVs, point of views, that you can invest in one of the 5 ideologies. And the cool thing is that you have this like tag on the bottom of the political compass, which is the political build. Like you can mix more ideologies to create your own one. So it's not you need to decide one ideology. It's incoherent, and the game knows it. So you can decide to mix it up, all the most absurd ideologies all together, and see what happens.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, excellent. Okay. So then let me ask you this, kind of moving away from that, because I'm gonna ask you some other questions about that in just a minute. Okay, so how have you done world building and lore? This is something that's been really important in games like, I would say more like the Elder Scrolls games, where you have all these books and notes and audio recordings. Do you guys have anything like that? How does that happen?
We would love to have audio recordings, but it costs a lot, and we don't have a budget, so probably will not have voiceover neither. But lore moves through ambient storytelling. You watch on a location. We are working really hard to create compelling interiors to explore, because it's a lockdown game. Okay, you don't have a huge map. You have interiors. You have the interiors of a condominium, and a little bit more. You can go underground, and there are dungeons. But mostly, the approach that I had with creating the world building of Glasshouse is that usually when people are doing world building, I'm not saying that my take on it it's the best. I'm just saying that it's a peculiar way to approach world building. Usually, when people do world building, they start large, like huge. Now they have giant map, and they want to tell the story of its citizen by watching the outside of their houses. But my approach was different. I know we couldn't make an open world game, so we decided to tell the story of the citizen of that world by telling to the players how they are living in their private houses. So I like to imagine this kind of thing. Like the player can look at society, can understand a society by watching outside the window of their room. I want the player to just sit down, relax, watching Londonstock, the city of the game, burns, and inside there's the real life of people. A revolution is happening, and you're just one of the citizens on the other side of the barricade. You're not one of the revolutionaries, you're just a citizen. And I think that's the perfect way to depict the shape of a new society. And in Glasshouse, you will see a lot of love put into object, into architecture, into the structure of components of a building. You will actually be able to read books from the library. There's a cool thing. There's a cool part in the demo, which is out now, by the way, in which basically you can reach a library. You can reach a library and read books, and the game tells you that you can actually know a person by watching the covers of their books. And that's what you can do. Like there's a lot of vertical characterization because you can go into a room of one NPC, you can read their books, and maybe thanks to that you can understand which political side is taking, and then you can do the skill check. So everything is connected, and we are not doing it because we are the only one capable of doing it. We are doing it because we are working in the small picture, really small picture. We don't have 100,000 NPCs. We have 8 NPCs. We don't have an incredible amount of location. We have one main location, which is the condominium, and then we have the old canals, which is the underground dungeon. We want to tell a short story, but because it's short, we can afford to make to maintain a better quality and create more consistent choices.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, this is the more that you're talking. So I immediately was interested in this just from seeing it, because it's the type of game that I'm into. But the more that you're talking, I can definitely say that it seems like your team is really, for the viewer, anybody can say anything, and then in the end, it ends up being something different or whatever. But I'm just saying, from what I'm hearing, though, this sounds like your team is doing a really, really great job of working within their limitations to create something special. And I really love this. This is actually getting me more and more like, oh, I can't wait for it to come out so I can see what this thing is going to be. This sounds really great. Okay. Yeah. So, okay, I have one more question, and then I want to get, and then I would like to get into kind of the core mechanics. We kind of talked about some of them, so it won't take too long. So, okay. So from what I've read, what we've talked about so far, we've talked about kind of the political overtones. All right. So in recent years, we have this quote unquote like wokeness in video games and different ideological differences that developers have put into video games and directors and writers put into movies. And it's been cited as kind of a thing that movie goers and video game players have not liked, and they say it's negatively affected on the industry. My opinion on this is basically not so much that there's like an ideology presented in the movie, or in a movie or a video game, but instead that the writer or director, whoever it is, they're trying to tell you this is what is right, this is what you need to believe, and people disagree, so they don't like it. Okay. What are your thoughts on this? And, what are you kind of doing to make sure that the game is, it's of the highest quality in relation to these issues? And, to try to prevent that beating your audience, whoever plays your game, to try to prevent beating them over the head with your own ideas. Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, we are not trying to tell people what's right, as I said before, and that's our political choice.
Yeah. I can tell you, I just want to interrupt you real quick and say, just by you saying that is a better response than like 99% of video game developers today. So I really, really appreciate that. Yeah.
That's if one game does actually tell you something, like I'm also against not having politics on games. Like our choices, it's pretty much political, not because we want to go against somewhere else, but our choice is political because we chosen to create a game that can allow every people to release their self into it, so they can act like they would act in real life. And that's our choice. Our choice is that, of course, I am made of politic. Okay. So I have a political orientation, and I think that people can actually read through the line what's the political orientation of the writer, because it's impossible to discern the person from the writer and the writing, because otherwise it will be just a product for the market. If there's no author value in it, then could be just chat GPT,
right?
But that doesn't mean that you can't create a world in which you can act whatever the fuck you want. And that's the thing. If people tells you what you should be, that's totally fine. They can do that. If they tells you to believe in something, if they tells you that something is good and something is bad, that's fine. That's part of the game. Everyone chooses to believe in whatever the fuck they want. But for us, it was mandatory, because we are doing an RPG, to allow people to actually role play. And you can even role play as a fascist if you want. I'm sorry for you if you want to role play as a fascist, because it will be a difficult run. But if you want to do it, well, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so like I guess like the big question on everybody's mind is going to be, and this is I no criticism of you here, because actually I'm loving everything I'm hearing, but like you say, like it's a post-capitalist world. In some movies, particularly the movie industry, this has been a problem where they'll have basically they'll depict things like if you watched the Barbie movie or you watch or Captain Marvel movie, they'll depict, they kind of take people of a certain political orientation, and they basically depict them as being bad. Like, that is the bad guy. If you believe that, you are the bad guy, type of thing. Is that so from what I'm hearing you say, it doesn't sound like that's the thing, but I do just have to ask the question directly. Like, do you do that in games? Like, are players going to play this game, and the game going to...
I didn't watch Barbie.
Okay.
I needed to choose between Barbie and Oppenheimer. And I watched Oppenheimer at the end of it. and sadly was one of my least favorite Christopher Nolan movies. But
I know it was long. It was long and boring, but I think that you probably liked it better than you would have liked Barbie.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know actually. So I'm a little bit outside the area of being able to say something related to Barbie. But I know something.
Not so much Barbie, but you know, like how a movie or a video game or something will almost, when it gets into politics, they'll present like, this is what it is to be a good person and this is what it is to be a bad person, and you'll see that throughout the game. Kind of like what you were saying about Mass Effect. Like Mass Effect tells you, if you are a certain way, then you are the good guy, and if you are a certain way, you are the bad guy. Yeah. Are you? Yeah.
This year to accept it in movies, okay, and not in games, because in games, when you are in real life, you take choices, okay?
Yeah.
And because you take it, you think it's right, okay?
Right.
There's no one telling you that it's wrong. So for me, there's a narrative ludo dissonance in games like RPG, in saying, yeah, you can take whatever choice you want, but one is bad and one is good. That's different from movies, because in movies, the main objective of movies is telling you something, and it's mainly upon the authors. It's the authors, it's telling you something you are not agreeing with. That's fine too, because we are living in a democracy, so it's fine if you feel bad by watching something, because it's like the director is saying, your word is wrong, mine is good. And it's even okay if you watch another movie, and in that movie you agree with the director and the writer of that movie. I mean, it's not it's a 50-50 situation. I tend to watch movies of authors that I disagree with, and movies of authors that I agree with. That's part of the democracy in which we are living. It's good to have choices, at least, that we see things, we can discuss it, and we can totally disagree with it if it happens. But for me, what is happening now in the movie industry, in the industry in general, it's okay, but of course it needs to be controlled, because it never happened that now there are less movies. It's not like now there are less movies than there were before. There are more movies, there are more games, and they are saying a wider range of things. So this is possible because we are living in a democracy, and the only thing that I hope is that we will never arrive in a point in which we can't do that anymore. Because, of course, going to the going radical can always be bad. And radical, you can go on the right side or on the left side, okay? Because at the end of the day, if you go too much right, you will end up on the left. And if you go too much left, you will end up to the right. So everything, it's totally fine. For me, that's not a problem. There's not a problem in media right now, because we can actually argue about that.
Right.
And it wasn't like that before. We couldn't argue. There was just facts and things, and we couldn't discuss it. I mean, not me, because I have 30 years or so. I wasn't the regime. But I mean, I looked upon other places, and well, you can say everything you want. So I think the fact that we are discussing about it, it's just a fact of it just the proof that the democracy, it's working right now, especially because of this, because we are getting angry about Barbie, but we are not going in jail. We can make
that's a good point. Yeah,
we can talk about it in YouTube. Of course, they want to tell you what is good, and sometimes they can be right, and sometimes they can be wrong, and there's nothing wrong about it. Sorry for the long speech.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, basically, I'm just wanting to make sure for my viewers and for people who might be interested in playing this game, like, I want something that's at least balanced, and you're making it more clear to me that this is, like, you can have your opinions, that's okay. Some people are going to disagree with you, but that's okay. I appreciate that. I think that we are missing that with some people, and I have no problem with, like, and I agree with you. Like, I have no problem with somebody making something that I don't like or disagree with. I just, but there needs to be an understanding that it is okay for me to disagree with it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that some people are missing that. Yeah. I love my awesome Support the Troops Stormtrooper mug. Do you know where you can get a mug just like this one, but different? Bottega Krua. Bottega Krua is an Italian born and raised artisan trained at the Academy of Fine Arts in Venice, Italy. Since 2010, Bottega Krua has offered unique handmade and hand-painted ceramics, pottery, and other artistic products. You can find these products at her Etsy store by following the link down below. She also takes custom orders, but they may take longer to ship because she has to make them after you order them. So, go check out Bottega Krua to get yourself an awesome mug just like this one, or the ones you've been seeing behind me as this ad has been going on. Remember, guys, supporting our partners is supporting the pack. The Action Pack. Okay, so then moving on here, I just have a few more questions. I know that we've been here for a while. I don't want to take up all your time or whatever. But we here at Mike's After Action Reviews, we break things down into the story, the core gameplay mechanics, and then the special features. Special features would be things like the character progression, the crafting, anything that is like a special feature in a game that you see, different mechanics and stuff like that you typically don't see in other games. We've talked about character progression as far as the political compass, but I do want to ask you this. So what would you say, what would you say are your game's core gameplay mechanics? Like, is there combat? Usually the most common ones I see are like combat, because a lot of games have like the combat, exploration. Those are like the two most common ones I see. So what would you say are your core gameplay mechanic?
Well, we have the exploration of beautiful interiors. We have the dialogues, and there's an argument to say about the dialogue. Then we have crafting, and then we have puzzles, but it's tied to the dialogue, like combats, such as combats. Even we have combats, but it's not what you're expecting. So first and foremost, let me talk about the dialogue tab. We have, like in Disco Elysium, we chosen the dialogue tab on the right of the screen. Okay. Because it's perfect. I mean, you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. We just decided to upgrade the artistic part and make some quality of life changes because it was already working. And the one of Disco Elysium got inspired too by the one of Shadowrun. So of course that's the progress. We like the way it is. So in the dialogue tab, you will have the dialogues, but we decide, and this is one of the things that I'm most proud of, game design wise, to act a gamification of the dialogue tab itself. Inside the dialogue tab, you will find objects that you can drag and drop directly to your inventory. You can find QuickTime events, and you can find also puzzles, like interface puzzles that you need to solve in it. So that means that it's not anymore a dialogue tab, but it's more of an interactive tab, because
Mhm.
like in games usually you see a wardrobe. Okay, you open the wardrobe and you directly see a container, and you can just take the object. Okay, that's the classic RPG way. But in Glasshouse, when you open a wardrobe, you will have a text labyrinth. So
Okay.
it's like a tabletop game, no? You open a wardrobe and you can choose between, okay, look the upper shelf, look the middle shelf, open
Okay.
the wardrobe, and inside of that you will find yourself into a text maze, and you need to orientate yourself inside of it in order to find new interactions. Like we have a system that is called the cunning system, that if you have some tools in your inventory, then a new dialogues appears. Like you open the
Okay.
wardrobe, okay, and you have a screwdriver in your inventory. If while you're exploring the wardrobe, you see that there are some nails, okay, with the screwdriver in your inventory, it will appear a new dialogue line that will say unscrew the nails. And maybe you will find a secret vault inside of it. Okay? So
Mhm.
Glass House, when you start a dialogue, you will never know what will happen next. There will be an interactable items to take. Will there be a quick time event, or will there be a puzzle? Because maybe you need to interface with an electrical device, and you need to give powers to certain nodes. Um, all of this in order to prevent the the classic problem of CRPG, which is the wall of text. Have a giant
Right.
wall of text. So we
Okay.
decided to mix it up with a little bit more of variety in terms of interactability.
Okay. Can I just ask you? So before we go on to my last questions, I have some last questions. Can I just ask you about what the puzzles? Like when you say puzzles, do you mean like what exactly? What type of puzzles do you mean?
Well, of course, the game have a quest design of CRPGs, or even a quest design that it's resemblant of adventure game like Monkey
Mm-hmm.
Island. So
Okay.
you need to open a door. So if you want to open the door, you can ask because maybe you want to go to Wojciech room. Okay, so you can ask to Wojciech to open its room for you, or if you fail, you can decide to use a lockpick. Okay, you can decide to if you have found already a lockpick, you can open the door, but you need to bait Wojciech on the other side of the house. Or you can, but maybe how can you make a lockpick if you didn't found one? Maybe you can go to the library and learn the knowledge that will unlock the crafting blueprint to craft a
Okay.
lockpick and do that. So you have ambiental puzzle, um, and then you have also puzzle inside the dialogue tab. So in
Okay.
one of our videos, you can see there's some kind of puzzle with hexagons, okay, that you need to align in order to give powers to the power system. Okay, because
Okay.
maybe the lights goes out, so you need to attach the wires, and you do that by this puzzle that, of course, it's an abstraction of reality. It's not different as a game design philosophy as games such as Undertale, no? In which
Okay.
the fighting becomes like Space Invader. Okay, it doesn't make sense, but because it's an abstraction,
Right.
and you can
Right.
do
I understand what you're
abstraction,
saying. Yeah.
you're doing the suspension of disbelief because you are in a video game. When you open a video game, it's like you're signing a contract, and in this contract there's written, okay, I accept to enter the magical circle. And uh, and if it happens, if you want to stay in the magical circle, you will stay inside of it for the rest of the playthrough until you don't want to get out. So of course, it's our job to not tear apart the rope, which is the suspension of disbelief.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely understand. Yeah, because sometimes people say like, oh, some certain things are not realistic, but there's things that I call game-isms, which is basically like, look, I know that this wouldn't be the way that it is, but for the mechanics that the game has and the stuff this is just how it has to be to make the game work. So I can completely accept that. Okay, so I have 2 more questions, and then we're finished off here. So typically I would ask, what are some of the game's special features? I know that you said you have crafting. I know that you said that there's this political compass, which is very interesting. Are there any other game special features in the game that are unique to your game that you want to highlight moving forward? Yeah.
Well, you asked for it before, and we have some kind of combat, but it's not the combat you expect.
Okay.
It's not. It's turn-based, but it's text-based. It's not like Baldur's Gate. Okay, when you enter in a combat, basically you have your dialogue tab, and you can decide, like if you are doing a role play, you can decide, okay, Will Meyer, your main character, goes to left, Egbert goes to right, and then you can say to your player, to your roommates, hey, shoot at him, and you will see what happens. It's like a butterfly effect battle, okay, in which only by choosing dialogue lines you will see that something different will happen, okay, and you can even die. And die, it's the game over is part of the gameplay, because when you die, that there's not just a splash screen in which says you are dead. No, you go in the backstage, and in the backstage you will speak with the narrator of the game, and you can decide if you want to end the show with your death and see the credits roll because you are satisfied with it, or you can decide to reprise the scene and change the perspective. So basically, instead of just putting you in front of a loading screen, you will be put into a game over scene in which, by the use of dialogues, you can reload the scene or end the game itself. So 2 special features. But the combat itself, imagine it like the swearing combat of Monkey Island. Now, in Monkey Island, you choose the dialogue line to offend the other people. In Glasshouse, you don't offend people, but by picking dialogue lines, you can actually move your characters, and you will see what happens. It's a bit of a trial and error, but we will try to not make it too much trial and error, because we don't want to have only one path to solve one combat situation. We want to create multiple paths in which you survive, or you survive with one leg less, or you survive with one of your friends dying. So it will be, we are striving to making different and cool at the same time.
That actually is really unique, because I will tell, like, I've played text-based games, and it sounds something similar to that as well, where you tell the game what you want to do as far as dialogue and give instructions to your characters on whatever options you have. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so you have crafting. The political compass system sounds really unique. A lot of your features sound really cool. I understand that it's because you're working within certain limitations, but I think that you guys have done, just from hearing, I'm not seeing anything yet, so I'm giving no guarantee to my audience, but it sounds like you guys are doing a really great job working within your limitations, and I said that before, but that's where you really make something special, is just doing what you can with what you have. So that's really awesome.
Our virtues.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate.
I will say.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
This is what my game design teacher was saying to me the other day. Your limits can be virtue.
Yeah, yeah. This is really cool. Well, that's where you have to be creative, and it sounds like there's going to be a lot of creativity, and we're going to see some things that we haven't seen before, especially from AAA developers, which is interesting. I think that in 2023, indie developers and smaller titles is really where a lot of the highest quality stuff was. So I really appreciate that. The Action Pack needs you. You can support Mike's After Action Reviews on our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Every quarter, once we've made at least $200, we're going to be giving away 10% of our earnings from Patreon in a giveaway over on our Twitch, so go check that out as well. You can find all of the links for everything in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Do your part. Support the pack. The Action Pack. Okay, awesome. So I really appreciate you coming out here talking with us. Is there anything else that you really particularly want to tell, the Action Pack over here at Mike's After Action Reviews?
Yeah, I would like to, of course, I would like to thank you for reaching me out from Atom RPG.
Okay.
That was my first video interview in English, so it's special. So thank you for your time. I would like to make a call to action. And it's that
Okay.
we have released a 2+ hour demo on itch.io. You can try already the concept demo of Glasshouse. There are already 3 endings of it, and at some point we will. What happened? Okay. And at some point, sorry, the lights goes out.
That's okay. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
A demo of Glasshouse, it's already out on itch.io. It's +2 hours of gameplay, and there are already 3 endings. On the next weeks, we are going also to release it in its final forms as a concept demo on Steam. So follow our pages, and thank you so much for your attention. It's really cool to be in here and have this informal kind of chat. We are a collective. We are not formals. We are not a company. We want to be truth to the audience, to the people we are speaking with, and it's been possible thanks to you, Mike.
Yeah, well then let me. Okay, well, and before we go, just a last thing here is you mentioned before you worked on a documentary. Are there any other? So Never Fade Away documentary. You can find it on YouTube. Any other things that where people can see some of your other work?
Yeah, other than Glasshouse, like Glasshouse, it's not now. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Game Dev Collective. I'm speaking about myself. My real job is not actually making games. I would like that one day that Glasshouse will be my main job, but since we don't have funding, I can't afford that, because otherwise, how the I'm going to pay my rent? So my real job is director and writer of documentaries, commercials, and music videos. If you want, on YouTube, we have a format on the channel that is called RoundTwo. We basically do documentaries with a great cinematography appeal on video games, on video game studies. So, like our most recent is Never Fade Away, which is the documentary of Cyberpunk 2077. With the group, we basically reached the study of CD Projekt Red, and we interviewed 4 members of the team before the launch of the DLC Phantom Liberty, and that work it's an independent work. We did it with a troupe of 7 people, and I'm the director of it. That's the cool thing. I managed to reach the video game industry, not with Glasshouse, but by being a journalist. Like a long time ago, I was a journalist on a website that was called everyi.it. And then when I started to make my job 10 years ago of, being a director, a camera operator, I decided that I wanted to give something to one of my main passion, which was video games. And I wanted to interview the people from the industry. So we even went on Japan and we did a studio tour of Tango Gameworks, the developers of Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo. And, cool stuff, cool stories. But this time on the other side of the barricade. I'm a developer, and because of that, life it's really curious, but it's also good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen. So everybody, so you were saying that's okay. Just to be clear, RoundTwo.
RoundTwo. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
so
RoundTwo on YouTube.
Okay, so we will go. I after we're done here, send me the links. I'll make sure to put them in the description and in the pinned comments. So make sure to go check those out, guys. One last thing. Okay, Okay, so at Mike's After Action Reviews, we rate movies and video games as excellent, okay, above average, average, below average, and bad. Okay, so 5 tiers. Okay, if you had to take Glasshouse, okay, and you compared it to other games, where would you say that it falls on the scale? I asked this question to all creators, so this is...
That's fine. I saw that and I was prepared.
Okay.
But sadly, you picked the wrong person because I don't like votes at all. Because
Okay.
No, that's my thing. I don't as an artist, I don't like to judge other artists' work.
Okay.
But that's most of all that's my problem, because I feel like that votes are a synthesis of something bigger. Okay, so as you saw, I prefer to speak instead of telling numbers. So for real, when you ask me to pronounce a vote, I am actually not capable of giving votes because I never considered the vote system as a good one. But that's fine.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. No. That's perfectly.
But for your scale, I hope it would be a 5, of course.
Okay, excellent. Yes, hopefully. Well, we're hoping for excellent. I'm gonna tell you, like, when I do my trailer reactions and I usually tell people like, oh, this looks like it's gonna be good, or looks like it's gonna be bad. I'm gonna say, look, I don't think this is gonna be for everybody necessarily. I don't think any game is, but I think that this looks so interesting with some of the mechanics. So definitely, guys, go check this one out. Like I said, I'll leave the links for everything. Okay. I'm a dumb American. You told me to call you Monte. Give us your outro here. Tell us your name, to your full name. I'm a dumb American. I can't pronounce things. Yeah.
My name is Giacomo Montagnoli, and I am the creative director of Glasshouse, nonetheless the co-founder of Flat 28 Game Dev Collective.
All right. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really glad to have you. This has been really great. I've had a fun time talking with you. I want to thank all of you guys for watching and just say, hey, thank you for coming again. And then God bless you all and have a good day. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch and join the Discord where you can voice chat with me while I live stream, and you won't be recorded or anything on YouTube and Twitch, so that's pretty cool. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. If you like to read, you can see my after action reports on my blog. And if you are interested, you can get some merch from my spring store. The links for everything are in the description below.